Hello everyone. Against the wall are two notifier panels. On the right is the AFP-200 fire alarm control panel, and on the left is the VEC 2550X voice evacuation control panel. Both of these panels were first produced in the mid-1990s and were designed as compact, cost-effective panels for smaller facilities. The AFP-200 is an adjustable panel with a single SLC loop for up to 198 devices, including 99 detectors and 99 modules. It's similar in size to the simple AFP-100, yet has many advanced features seen on large control panels like the AFP-400, including networking, suppression support, PC printer interfaces, and much more, all of which are easily programmable from the panel's keypad or a PC software. The VEC 2550X is a rebrand of the Firelight Fire Command 2550X. The basic panel includes a 25-watt amplifier, an internal microphone, a tone generator, and a message generator containing a 60-second factory fire evac message. The total audio output can be expanded to 50 watts using a second amplifier, and system options can be configured using dip switches on the main circuit board. The message generator can be configured for a single 60-second message or two 30-second messages. A customized message or messages can be recorded using the internal microphone or an external audio input. For this overview, the VEC 2550X is connected as an adjunct panel to the AFP-200. So let's jump right into this. For the demonstration system, there are both fire and non-fire devices. For the fire alarm portion, we have an NBG12LX pull station, an FDX 551 heat detector, and an SDX 551 smoke detector. The notification appliance is a system sensor mass speaker strobe V4R 2475ADA. For the non-fire portion, we have a Blue Point pull station with an MMX101 module attached to it, and a Wheelock RSSA amber strobe. For any fire alarm condition, the VEC will play a fire evac message and the mass strobe will flash. For any non-fire condition, the RSSA strobe will flash and the VEC will play a non-fire message. So let's start with the fire alarm portion of the system.
Do not re-enter the building unless directed to do so by the proper authorities. May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? The signal you have just heard indicates a report of a fire in this building. Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building. Do not re-enter the building unless directed to do so by the proper authorities.
System is silenced, and the strobe continues to flash. For a mass ADA strobe, it flashes pretty fast. Let's try to reset this. One hand. So now, let's activate the heat detector.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? The signal you have just heard indicates a report of a fire in this building. Please proceed to the nearest exit and leave the building. Do not re-enter the building unless directed to do so by the proper authorities.
Now let's activate the smoke detector. One of the advanced features of the AFP-200 and larger panels is the ability to read the status of the detector while it's operating. So go to Read Status Entry and read Point. This detector is address 1. It's currently testing right now. And now it's back to normal. So the number that was changing there is the alarm threshold. Once it goes above the 2.00%, the detector is an alarm. So let's start with a very small puff of smoke. Something that's probably not perceptible to the human eye. And the detector senses some smoke, but not enough to initiate a fire alarm. Let's give it a little bit more. Try our best not to alarm the system too early here. So we're about halfway there. Panel is in pre-alarm warning state, and the LCD displays alert on this detector. A little bit higher now, and the panel is now in action stage. Still no alarm yet though. So now, let's give it a big puff of smoke, and now we can probably alarm the system. There we go. The panel takes a minute for verification. There we go. Detector is alarmed. Signals are sounding or flashing. You could probably reset. The detector will air itself out. There we go. So the AFP-200 and larger panels like the AFP-400 have this pre-alarm warning feature as a way to indicate that a detector senses smoke and a potential fire, although not enough to initiate a full alarm. This could be helpful in situations where early warning is essential. As shown previously, there are two pre-alarm states, alert and action. Each of these has its own threshold. The alert stage has a lower priority and can be used in places like hotel rooms or dormitory rooms, where a local sounder base activates on alert stage, but the general alarm signals do not activate. If the smoke clears or falls below the alert threshold, then the system goes back to normal and no further action is needed. The action stage is more urgent and can be used in situations like in an equipment room, where once a detector reaches the action stage, power to the equipment in that room is shut off as a precautionary measure. Action stage events remain on the panel until a system reset is initiated. Finally, if the alarm threshold is met or exceeded, then the system goes into full alarm, general alarm signals will sound, and the building is evacuated. Now let's demonstrate the non-alarm portion of the system. This pulse station says please, but the VEC will play a severe weather message instead. Anyways.
Your attention, please. A severe weather warning has been received. Please walk to the nearest safe area and wait for further instructions. Elevator lobbies, stairwells, bathrooms, and auditoriums are designated safe areas in the event of severe weather. Stay away from windows and glass. Do not use the elevators. Your attention, please. A severe weather warning has been received. Please walk to the nearest safe area and wait for further instructions. Elevator lobbies, stairwells, bathrooms, and auditoriums are designated safe areas in the event of severe weather. Stay away from windows and glass. Do not use the elevators.
Silence the VEC, and the amber strobe continues to flash. And that message was custom, by the way. It was pulled from one of the later Firelight voice evac panels. So now we can reset the system. And back to normal. Now let's take a look inside the AFP-200. The cabinet is the same cabinet as used for the AFP-400, otherwise known as the Firelight MS4424. Much like the AFP-100, the AFP-200 consists of a single circuit board with a keypad and display, terminals, and a power supply. There's two transformers in the back box too. Larger panels like the AFP-400 or the AFP-1010 are more modular in design, usually consisting of a CPU, power supply, and a variety of modules that could be installed inside a larger cabinet. The AFP-200 keypad features a 2x40 LCD display, some LED indicators, operator buttons, a numeric keypad, and arrow keys. Larger panels like the AFP-400 feature a larger alphanumeric keypad and many more buttons for additional advanced functions, but the AFP-200 keeps it on the simpler side. Most of the terminal connections are on the top of the circuit board. On the top right is the SLC loop. This terminal block is an RS-485 interface for annunciators like the LCD-80. This terminal block here is an RS-232 interface for PCs, printers, CRT monitors, and other modules like the NAM-232 network card, which sits behind the main circuit board. Right here are just some relays, alarm, trouble, and supervisory, 4 signal circuits, and various auxiliary power terminals, which is disconnected right now. The auxiliary power terminal is used to power the NAM-232 module, which is sitting back there. And the reason why it's disconnected is because, well, there's nothing to network right now, but also the NAM-232 is constantly communicating with the main board through the RS-232 interface. And while this is occurring, the main menu cannot be accessed until it's done. You have to wait a few minutes while this is occurring, and it's pretty annoying. So it's disconnected for the time being. At the top left of the power supply are LEDs for battery trouble and high charge rate. There's also a jumper to cut here for an external charger. This horizontal switch here is to set the RS-485 interface as either ACS or terminal mode, depending on the annunciator being used. Larger panels don't need this switch. This vertical switch is to decide whether to report AC loss or not. This connector here is for an option module, such as an ACM8R relay module. And if a module is installed, this jumper has to be cut as well. At the bottom right is the firmware chip. This panel is running the latest, version 3.02. This chip is important if the AFP-200 will be networked to newer components like the NCA2 network control annunciator. A lot of AFP-200s seen in the field have something older like version 2.43. This chip was acquired in a NAM-232 upgrade kit. This jumper here is for a tamper connection. There's a connector for an amp meter, battery cable, transformer connector, circuit breaker, and AC input. So here's a quick overview of the AFP-200's menu interface. Press enter to enter a menu and you get 2 options, programming or read status. Read status does not require a passcode to enter. The read point was demonstrated previously, but the other options are to either print points, read history, or print history if there's a printer connected. If we check read history, we can review some past events in the panel's history buffer. Like so. Now let's enter programming. Panel goes into trouble, and we are prompted to enter a passcode. There are 2 different levels, status change and programming changes. So let's start with status change. The default passcodes can be found in the user manual. So status change, you have the option to disable points, adjust sensitivity or drift compensation, clear verification tallies, clear history, set the time and date, and walk test. Pretty straightforward. Now let's enter the programming level. There's basic program, and if your firmware has networking, there's also network program. In network program, you can set the channel threshold, node address, and zone control by event. And all this information is on the NAM, which is not powered right now, so can't touch anything here. But basic program, which is on all the AFP-200s, get a lot of options. These are similar on the AFP-400 and later panels like the NFS-2640. 0 just clears the entire panel as programming. 1 is auto program, which is the only way to add devices through the keypad. 2 is to modify points or delete them. So let's check a point. Let's check a module. Check the pulse station. So you can change the point type, the label. You get 5 zones to set the device to, and that's just the address of the device. Now let's do a detector. Let's do the heat detector this time. So the heat detector, that's the point type, label, and the zones, pretty much the same. Now smoke detectors are a bit more involved, whether it's ion or photo. You can set the sensitivity level, which on the AFP-200 you have low, medium, or high. There's also an option to set verification, pre-alarm, and whether to participate in walk test or not. So put that back on heat. And lastly, we can check the built-in signal circuits. Let's check signal circuit number 1. So, signal circuit 1, you can set the point type, although it doesn't really matter too much. Set the label, the zones, sound symbol, and walk test participation. So that's point programming. 3 changes the passcodes to the system. If you acquire an AFP-200 and the passcodes were changed, there is a way to backdoor these panels, as well as the other AFP panels. You can check online, it's been posted in forums before. 4 changes the system normal message on the panel. 5 changes the zone name for all of the programmable zones on the panel. 6 is special zones. This is a variety of things: pre-signal, releasing zones, time sensitivities, holidays. 9.8 is the system coding. So you have March time, temporal, California code, and 2-stage. And once you set the code, you have to put that zone within that signal circuit in order for the code to apply. And 99 is pre-alarm. And you can set the thresholds for both the alert and action stages. 7 is system, provides a lot more options. Sounds inhibit just sets how long the operator has to wait before they can silence or reset the system. This option is used a lot in Canada. Auto sets how long before the system automatically silences itself. This may be helpful whenever the building is unoccupied. Verify sets how long the alarm verification delay is, USA or European time. Enunciation depends on what enunciators are installed in the system and what needs to be supervised, whether it be a terminal enunciator like an LCD80TM or an ACS enunciator like an ACM16AT. This LOCT sets the type of terminal connection. This is local terminal. Blink sets whether the adjustable devices blink or not. You might want to turn that off if you don't want to disturb occupants in resting areas. ST sets the SLC loop style, whether it be 4 or 6. And AVPS sets whether there are AVPS auxiliary power supplies on the system or not. And the last option is check program. This just allows the panel to validate its programming. If there are any issues with the point setup or zones, it'll let the user know right here. The panel may remind the user to run this check if any changes are made before you exit programming. And that's pretty much it for the AFP-200. Next, let's take a look at the VEC 2550X. The address panel here, and it has some slits to see some of the LEDs inside the panel. There's a little operator interface here. This switch can be used to either initiate a manual evac or message override. So manual evac is pretty straightforward. And then holding down allows use of the microphone if the system is in alarm. There's also 2 buttons here. Trouble silence. If the panel has a trouble, there'll be a piezo that sounds, so you just press that to silence the piezo. And there's also a message playback, which can only be used if there's a local speaker installed inside the panel. There's also a little green LED here for recording if a custom message is being recorded. And you have your basic trouble, power, and alarm indicators at the bottom. And down this well here is the microphone. So here's the inside of the VEC with the address panel removed. There's also a big label back here with some basic operator controls, and also a basic idea of system options. This is what the panel was configured as when it was installed. On the left here is the power supply module. There's a transformer below it. It just provides power to the system. It also supervises for battery troubles and ground faults. It has a terminal block up here, which is a AC loss relay. So this could be connected to a main front alarm panel, like the AFP-200, and it can indicate a trouble on there if the AC is lost on this panel. There's also a little switch here to indicate AC fail, delay or not. These 2 components here are the amplifiers. Each one is rated for 25 watts of power at 25 volts RMS. Each one can accept an optional transformer for 70 volts RMS instead of 25. Each one also has a switch to indicate that amp as a backup amplifier if necessary. At the top of each amp, there's a terminal block for the speaker output and a smaller terminal block for backup audio. Behind all of this is the main board. This terminal block right here, resistor, is a master command output. There's a small aux power output right here, and two command inputs right here. And these are both being controlled by signal circuits on the AFP-200. There's a couple of terminals down here. According to the manual, these are not to be used. There's various other connectors here. Some dip switches. This connector here is if there's a remote microphone installed on the system. This is a record bypass for recording messages on the main board. Down here is the connector to the internal microphone, jack for external audio input, another connector here for a local speaker module. There's a couple of dip switches here to configure the panel. Start with the one on the right. Switch 1 sets temporal coding if the steady tone is selected. Switches 2 and 3 set the tone used on the panel. There's steady tone, slow whoop, high-low, and a chime tone. Switches 4 and 5 set whether to play a tone before and after the message, respectively. And switches 6, 7, and 8 determine how many times the message plays, or if not at all, or infinitely. This is seen in the message repeat cycle section right there. And for the left-hand dip switches, switch 1 sets if emergency paging can be overridden after 3 minutes. Switch 2 sets if the pre-recorded message consists of one 60-second message or two 30-second messages. Switch 3 sets if background music will be playing through the audio input. Switch 4 determines if the master control bus will operate on alarm or when emergency paging is active. Switches 5 and 6 determine operation of the command inputs. They can operate on either a polarity reversal signal circuit, like on this system, or simple contact closure, like a switch or a button. Switch 7 determines the source of the recording for custom messages, whether it be the microphone or the audio input. And finally, switch 8 enables a recording of a custom message. To record a custom message on the VEC, dip switch 8 must be flipped on S5, and the recording bypass switch must be flipped up. Once that's done, the trouble silence switch acts as the record start button. Once pressed, the green LED up here will start to flash. Once it's steady, it indicates that it's recording whatever audio is playing, whether through the audio input or the microphone. The LED will start flashing fast when approaching the end of the panel's memory bank. And once the recording is complete, the message is stored to the panel's memory. If the local speaker module is installed, then the message playback button can be pressed to listen to the message that was recorded. Once all recording is completed, the bypass switch should be flipped back down and switch 8 should be flipped back down as well. So that concludes this overview of the Notifier AFP-200 and VEC 2550X. The VEC will be discontinued in the early 2000s, being replaced with the NFV 2550. The AFP-200 lasted out a bit longer, but was ultimately discontinued in the late 2000s with the release of the NFS 320. While very simple, the VEC is easy to install and configure using the dip switches, and custom messages are easy to record using the internal microphone or the audio input. No programming software is required for this panel. Nowadays, these are quite rare, but if you do happen to acquire one of these voice panels, they make for great additions to panels with no built-in voice capabilities, and are one of the smaller voice evacuation control panels on the market. Although discontinued for some time, the AFP-200 remains an excellent small adjustable panel. It combines the many advanced features of larger panels while maintaining a smaller footprint. These are easy to program, fairly sturdy, and are relatively common still on sites like eBay. I highly recommend the AFP-200 to anyone interested in getting their first adjustable control panel, or for anyone interested in a Notifier fire alarm control panel. In any case, if you have any questions or comments on the AFP-200 or the VEC 2550X, feel free to post them below. But until next time, have a nice day.